Hello learners. In this lecture, we are going to learn about creating the shade parameters, and let's take an example of creating a table furniture. Okay. So let's create a new file. Let's go with the construction template. So here we are going to check or create the shade parameter. Okay. So in order to create the parameters, you need to go to manage. Let's create a wall first. Let's create a wall first here. Let's go to manage, and here we have the parameters. Okay. Let's go for shade parameters, and here shade parameter requires a txt file. Okay, that is a text file wherein the shade parameter data would be contained. So you need to create the shade parameter file first. So let's go and check for the create option here, and let's name it as A, B, C or anything. Okay, and make sure the family type is like the extension is .txt. Let's save it. Now you can see our txt file is now created. Now you can see once your txt file is created, now the groups option is enabled. So let's create a new group. Let's name it as sample. Okay. And under the group parameter or the parameter group, you will create the parameter. Let's name the parameter as test again. Let's keep it text. Okay. Let's keep it text under the common discipline and hit OK. Now you can see our new parameter, that is test, is created, and the parameter is of shade parameter type. Okay. Previously, you have seen creating the project parameter. This is the procedure that can be used for creating the test parameter, like the shade parameter. Okay. The parameter name is test. Now let's click OK. So here, just the parameter is created, but assigning part is still pending. So if you go and check the wall here, am I able to see the text, like the test parameter, that is the shade parameter? No, because it's unassigned. Now let's go to the project parameter here, and let's click on add. Now previously we have checked the project parameter. Now we will check the shade parameter and select. So we have the will like the this pop-up window will contain the list of all the shade parameters that I've created in that txt file. Okay, that is the text file. So we have created only the single parameter, that is test. So now it's asking us to select the parameters from the list. So we have currently just a single parameter. Okay. Now the shade parameter is linked. Okay. If you want to change the group under which the parameter is stored, you can change it. Let's keep it text, and if you can select whether it's a type parameter or an instance parameter. Okay, as you have seen previously. And let's apply to the required categories. If you want to check any other categories, you can check. Let's take an example of wall again, and okay, and finish. Now you can see, am I able to see the test parameter, that is shade parameter? Yes. Does it contain value? Yes. Okay, see. So in this way, you can create the shade parameters. Now, if you want to like test whether the parameter that you have created is working or not, let's close this file. Let's close this file, and let's open a new one. Let's open a new one. Now see whether the test parameter is once again imported into your project, like into your project as a shade parameter. Okay, so let's take a wall again. Currently, do we have anything? We don't have any parameter. Let's now, we don't need to create the shade parameter again because we have created it previously. So always whenever you are into a new file, you don't need to create the shade parameters again and again. As you have, like, if you remember, we have created test2 parameter for project, like project parameter. Okay, so are we able to see that parameter in the manage? Are we able to see the test2 parameter? No, because test2 parameter was only linked or limited to that particular previous file. Okay, project parameters can't be transferred from one file to another file, but shade parameters can. Okay, let's add. So instead of project, let's go for the shade parameters and select. You can see we still have the test parameter that we have created previously. So use the same parameter. Okay. If you want type instance, you can play with and assign the categories. Okay, and okay. Now let's see. Under the text group, we have the test parameter, and it's a shade parameter. Okay. As you can see that note below, shade parameter. Okay. If you want to add any text, you can add it. So this is the way you can create your shade parameters. Take an example of creating a furniture family, that is a table. Okay, so in order to create a new family, go to file, click on new, create family, and let's use the template for furniture, that is metric furniture. Okay, so we are now into the family creation template, you can say. Okay, so we want a tabletop and four legs for the table. So let's take an extrusion here, and place the tabletop something like this. Let's finish it. So in order to control the geometry accurately, like the changes should be visible from the mid portion. Let's create the reference plane around the table top. Okay, let's create the four reference plane along the four sides of the tabletop. Okay, and let's make them center or equidistant from the center. So let's make them equidistant from the center. So our tabletop is now almost created. Okay, now let's add parameter. Let's place dimension here, and let's place a dimension here. So instead of going and creating a parameter here, you can simply select the created or placed dimension, and here we have the option for creating the parameter. It's same as you have seen here. Okay, either you can do from here, or you can create the parameter by selecting the dimension and clicking on the create parameter option. So here we have the same interface. Let it be a family type. Let it be called as A. Let this parameter be an instance parameter, dimension, length. Okay, so everything default is correct. So let's create another parameter here and name it as B. Let's keep this as instance. So our tabletop have parameters A and B. Now let's go and check the thickness for the tabletop. So currently we have a thick tabletop. We actually don't need this one. So let's have a tabletop of 50 thickness. So let's log this. So in order to log the thickness or the log any kind of extrusion or any form, you just need to place the reference plane and add dimension here. So let's keep it 50. And if you want to log this one, just simply log the dimension. So even if I try to move the reference plane, the geometry or the thickness won't be changed. Instead, the tabletop or the counter, you can say, will move along with it. Okay. So there won't be any change in the depth or the thickness of the counter. So let's assign a height parameter here. I have placed the dimension. Let's create a new parameter. Let's say h here. Let it be instance. Discipline is common. Type of parameter is length. So we are good with it. Okay. So I've created a length parameter. Now let's try to place this into a Revit project and let's test how it works. So if I change the A value, let's say I will make it 1000. So it's changing equidistantly. That is correct. That's what I needed. Let's make it as 500. Sorry, 500. So the width and height for like width and length of the table is changing equidistantly. Now let's take a section here. Let's take a section here. Let's reduce the scale, and you can see for the height, let's change the height to 500 So that countertop is now changing. So all the parameters for my tabletop are working correctly. So now the question remains for the legs. Let's go to the reference level again, and now let's create the legs for the table. So you can create the legs using extrusion. Let's create a leg here, and let's complete the extrusion. So for the leg, if you need a specific distance from each face, you can even assign them. Let's say I want my leg at 150 from the center, like uh, from the edge of the table. So let's keep it at 150 Okay, let's keep it at 150 from this end, 150 from this end. Okay, so in order to log, we just simply need to log the dimensions. Okay, so now this won't change. Let's try it out. Let's load this into our family or the project type. Load this family into a project. Now let's change it to wireframe. You can see the distance is 150 from this end, distance is 150 from this end. So if I change the overall dimension, let's say 1500 by 800, still the distance is 150 from this face, 150 from this face. So our method is correct for placing the legs. So let's go in the reference plane again and finish up the rest of the three. Let's copy this one and place it somewhere over here. Okay, let's add the dimensions. Okay, and log them out. Okay, so two legs are done. Let's mirror these and assign the dimensions. Okay, so in this way, my legs are also locked at a distance of 150 from the edges. So let's load into project and let's test it out. Okay, so if I change the overall width again, let's say 800 by 400. Now they are close because the spacing is too close. So let's make it 800 again. So 150 distance is applicable here. Now if I want to change the height, but here we haven't locked the legs to the tabletop. So let's go to the front again. Let's go to the front and let's align the legs with respect to the bottom of the table and lock them out. Now let's load into project again and override. Now let's go to section 1. If I change the height, the legs should also change. Okay, let's see. The legs are also changing as I change my overall height for the table. So in this way, you can create your own custom Revit family. If you want to play with the other stuff that is controlling the visibility for a particular element or instance, you can do that as well. Let's say I want to make the legs visible only if a certain level of detail is selected, okay, or a certain view. So let's say I want these two legs or these four legs to be visible only when detail level of fine is selected. So I'll select them, and here we have a visibility controlling overrides. Okay, so let's edit, and here we can see if you check the plan or RCP, that is reflected ceiling plan, so these elements would be seen in plan as well as ceiling plan. If you check the front and back, these elements would be seen in front and back elevations, and similarly in left and right elevation. Now here, currently all the detail levels are selected, that is coarse is checked, medium is checked, and fine is checked. But if I want only the legs to be seen in fine detail level, I'll uncheck the medium and coarse, and let's click OK. Now let's load this project, load this family into our project, and if I turn this into coarse, my legs won't, the table legs of the table won't be visible. Now if I change to medium, still they are not visible. Now if I change to fine, now they are visible. This is because the visibility control that we have applied. So if I do want to place it default, like select the elements, click on edit, and now I want to see them in coarse and medium, but I don't want to see the legs in fine, so uncheck this fine. Okay, go to load path, load into project, and override. Now you can see I'm into the fine detail level, but I'm unable to see the legs. If I turn it into medium, I'm able to see it. If I turn it into coarse, I'm able to see it. Okay. Now similarly, if you want to see these particular elements in a reflected ceiling plan only and not in front and any elevations, okay, so you can uncheck them. Or if you want these elements to be seen on only elevation and not in any plans, floor plans, you can uncheck this and okay. Let's go and load this family into project. Now you can see we are into floor plan view and the legs are not visible. Now if I just go to any of the elevation, I'm able to see the legs. I'm able to see the legs. Okay, so in this way you can control the geometry. You can control the geometry. Let's keep it default, and now let's load it back into our project file. Now you can see I'm into my floor plan view, and despite of changing or toggling between the detail levels, I'm able to see it everything. I'm able to see everything. Okay, so we have reset the visibility overrides. Okay, so in this way you can control the visibility of the elements as well. Okay, so in this way you can create any custom family as per your requirement, whether it is a parametric family or a non-parametric family. So with this, we conclude the basic stuff for families. Okay, hope you enjoyed learning. Thank you.